Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to Sector for Nerds. I'm Ryan Brower, and today we are going to be talking about Star Wars Darth Maul, the Son of Dathomir comic, issue 2. If you guys missed the last video talking about issue 1, I highly encourage you guys to go and check that out. It was a heck of a lot of fun, and I mentioned that the reason why we're doing this right now is because there's no new Star Wars or Marvel content on Disney Plus, and I want to keep the discussions on Wednesdays going here on the channel, and I thought, why not talk about my favorite Star Wars comic, Son of Dathomir. So that's what we're doing right now and what we're going to be doing for all 4 issues of this comic. So make sure you're staying tuned this week and the next few weeks, as I'm going to be putting out new videos talking about each and every issue of the Son of Dathomir comic. But before we do that, you guys, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If this is your first time watching, I like to do a lot of reaction videos to fan-made Star Wars content, whether that's fan films or tribute videos, and I also like to do a lot of discussions on the latest episodes that appear on Disney Plus from both Star Wars and Marvel. So make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps to support my channel. So, where we last left Maul, his fleet was on the run from Grievous and the Separatists. The Shadow Collective, Maul's group, has gone to war with the Separatists, essentially. And Dooku and Sidious are trying to come up with this plan to take down Mother Talzin because they know that she's the reason for Maul making his resurrection. And they know that she is very powerful and is a threat to Sidious's plans. So we get Maul's fleet on the run, and we see Maul speaking with Talzin. And so far, everything that's sort of happening right now is sort of how Dooku and Sidious kind of foresaw that this was going to go. They were going to beat Maul's forces on Zanbar, and he was going to go and cry to his mom for help, which is exactly what he did. But Talzin is no dummy, right? She is super wise, and she knows what Sidious and Dooku are up to. And she's like, okay, so we're going to assume that they let you escape from that prison so that they could go and drive you out from Zanbar and weaken you. So we're going to assume that they're after me, which means we're also going to assume that they want me to help you. So because of this, I'm not going to help you, but we're going to send someone else to help you instead. And as I sat there reading this the first time, I'm like, yeah, no, yep, that's exactly what they're planning. This is genius. Yeah, throw them off their game. Do it. Talzin tells Maul to go to their base on Ord Mantell and that he would be receiving help from Dathomir, which is very interesting. Now, Ord Mantell, you guys, is a planet that we've seen referenced in a lot of different places in Star Wars, especially, I guess, the biggest one being in The Empire Strikes Back. Han references it when he says, well, that bounty hunter on Ord Mantell made me change my mind. I think the first time that we saw Ord Mantell in live action is on TV, I mean, is in The Bad Batch. So that's where the Bad Batch would go to hide. It's where Sid is. So a lot of Ord Mantell in The Bad Batch, and we'll probably continue to see it as that show goes on. Maul has a discussion with his crime lord buddies saying that we need to prepare for war, essentially, right, what Boba Fett was saying in the book of Boba Fett almost every week. We need to prepare for war. We get Dooku and Grievous on the same ship. When does that ever happen in Clone Wars? Like, I think the only time I can think of that actually happening was in the episode with the Malevolence. And Dooku's like, okay, we are not going to attack them until we know that Talzin's going there. So Dooku is pretty smart himself. He's like, all right, we need to make sure that everything's going to go as planned. We don't want to fall into a trap, right? They get a report that there are scout droids that are around the Dathomir area that were like, oh, we saw a ship leaving Dathomir. And so they're like, huh, okay, that's probably Talzin. All right, give the word, attack, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, here we go. But it's like, we know as the audience, it's not Talzin because she said herself to Maul, she's not coming. So we then get Maul's plan for how they're going to, try and defeat the Separatists. We get at least a base for it. And we kind of get to see like the general type character that Maul ends up becoming that we see a bit in season 5 of the Clone Wars and season 7 as well. So we get to see sort of Maul's intelligence sort of come through here. He says, what we lack in numbers will make up for in superior ability and mastery of the terrain. So the ship from Dathomir arrives on Ord Mantell, and who should be on it? None other than the Nightbrothers, led by Brother Vicious. I think I pronounced that right. But for those who don't know, Brother Vicious and the Nightbrothers, we see them in Season 3 of the Clone Wars on Dathomir, so very cool to see these guys once again. Grievous on his team ends up leading the fleet to an orbital bombardment of the planet, while meanwhile Dooku heads to the surface so he could go take care of Maul and Talzin. So Grievous ends up picking up on Maul's plan, but it happens a little too late, right? So Grievous's fleet is bombarding the planet, they're getting closer to the planet, and Grievous is kind of sitting there like, something ain't right here. Like, we haven't seen any countermeasures from Maul so far. Like, we know he had gauntlet fighters. Where are they? And then, like, his tactical droids, like, they were probably destroyed when we started bombarding the planet. And then Grievous realizes, no, it's a trap, because in comes all of Maul's gauntlet fighters and ships bombarding the Separatist fleet. But the problem is, right, the Separatists can't counter their attack because all their cannons are aimed at the planet. So to move their cannons towards Maul's ships would take time. So Maul's got him right where he wants them right now. Meanwhile, Dooku has infiltrated Maul's base and he comes into contact with the Nightbrothers, and we end up seeing a fight between the Nightbrothers and Dooku, which I think would have been super sick to see in the Clone Wars animated series. I would have loved to have seen that. So far things are going well for Maul. The Nightbrothers seem to be doing okay because they seem to have caught Dooku off guard. But as for the rest of Maul's forces, they are not doing well because the droids that are on the surface are overwhelming them. There's too many of them. And the Black Sun and the Pike leaders start to question Maul's plan because they see that their forces are being wiped out. So it's like, okay, like, what's Maul's big game here? Because, like, we don't know what's going on. We're all getting wiped out. Like, tell us that there's a plan. And obviously Saxon tries to reassure them, like, don't question the plan of our Lord. Like, it's going to lead us to victory. Don't worry. So here's one of my other favorite parts of this issue of the comic. Actually, probably my favorite part is Maul takes his ships and he and his Mandos leap out of them to infiltrate the Separatist dreadnought, pretty much like the same way that Saesee Tiin and the clones did in the micro series, which is like my favorite scene from that show. So they get into the ship, they reach the bridge, and Maul ends up just like tackling Dooku, gives him a good old spear, gives him a good old Roman Reigns or Edge spear to General Grievous. It was just freaking crazy. And he's like, deactivate the droids. And he's got like the Darksaber pinned up to his neck. And I'm just like, oh shit, this is sick. See, and just me talking about all this right now and reading the comic and everything like that again, it's just like, I want to see this on screen. Please give it to me. Why, Disney? Why? So once again, the droids are about to beat the Shadow Collective. But wait a second, they all shut down, kind of similar to what we see in The Phantom Menace with the Gungans, right? And so the Shadow Collective's like, oh great, let's scrap these motherfuckers. And he doesn't actually say that, but you get my point. It's like, let's scrap these droids. And so they do so. And it's like, all right, Shadow Collective, get the victory, barely. Meanwhile, the Nightbrothers are getting their butts kicked by Dooku, as expected. Because come on, guys, let's remember here, Dooku's a freaking Sith Lord, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I believe the Nightbrothers can put up a fight against Dooku, hence why I would have wanted to see it in the Clone Wars, because these guys are warriors, right? But, like, in the end, I think Dooku would just be so much more powerful than them. But before he's able to finish them all off, the Shadow Collective, who got done with the droids, made their way back to the command center and surround Dooku. And then Dooku gets captured. So let's just put this into perspective, you guys. In one battle in the Clone Wars that didn't involve the Republic, it was the Shadow Collective and the Separatists, all right? One battle, Dooku and Grievous were both captured. Let me say that again. Dooku and Grievous were both captured by a faction that wasn't the Republic. This is unbelievable. This right here, this moment, you take this moment right here. Don't add anything else that happens later on into the comics, whatever. This moment right here, this is like life-changing for the entire galaxy. Two of the main baddies have just been captured. The leader of the Separatists and their main general. The general that they've been putting over in the entire Clone Wars. The Republic, if we capture this guy, we can end the war. And now Maul's captured both him and Dooku in one battle. Maul's a freaking genius. And obviously, we got to give credit to Mother Talzin, too, because she was also very much involved with this plan as well. And Maul ends up contacting Talzin and tells him, like, hey, we got him. And Talzin's like, I'll be with you soon enough. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned this before either. When I say that Maul contacts Mother Talzin, it's not like a simple hologram chat. Like, Talzin, like, appears, like, she, like, freaking appears, like, out of his stomach in, like, this weird, like, looking, like, green hologramish looking ghost form, right? We kind of see her do this in Clone Wars with Dooku, right? But I feel like there it was probably a lot more painful for Dooku. I feel like for Maul, it was probably a lot less painful, because it didn't look like he was suffering at all when it was happening. This was another crazy issue of this comic, you guys, and I remember reading this for the first time being like, I cannot believe that Darth Maul just captured both Maul and Grievous. This is unbelievable. So in this moment in time, 1-up for the Shadow Collective, a massive 1-up. So how is Sidious going to respond? Well, I guess you guys are going to have to stay tuned to find out, because we're going to be talking about each and every issue of this comic, you guys. We still got 2 more to go, so I'm very excited to continue having these discussions with you guys. So make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share this video around as it really helps support the channel. Stay tuned for next week's video, and I will see you guys next time.